A little earlier, we spoke about the women's agenda for BBI, but we want to shift gears now and reintroduce our conversation this evening with the Sagana meeting. Honorable Pricilla Nyokabi stays with us on the program. Pricilla, you are one of the legislators, or should I say one of the leaders who was at Sagana. And you heard the president saying that the region must work together. We heard, for instance, Mheshimiwa Sabina Chege even apologize on behalf of Mount Kenya leaders for, seeming to, if you like, countermand the president or go against his directive. Do you have confidence today after hearing Babayao, Ferdinand Waititu, talk about now he's ready to support the BBI initiative, and after the cautious statements that were made by a section of Kiweleweke, Tanga legislators, I beg your pardon, that going forward there will be one voice from the region?
Yes, I'm optimistic about the one voice in the region, not just for the sake of one voice. I think the president was clear. It is one voice for the sake of development. It is unity of purpose, that we have regional issues that need to be dealt with, and it is very, very important that our leaders work with one voice, with one resolve in terms of the issues in the region. And I particularly have coffee in mind. A lot of the issues on the table require legislation and require budgetary support. And so it is going to be extremely important. Even if they don't find one voice in political direction, they at least find one voice on regional issues and on development issues. And for coffee in particular, the 3 billion shillings that was put in this year's budget that needs to go to farmers. There are some regulations before Parliament, the coffee general regulations, but we particularly need the coffee exchange regulations that determine how trade is going to be done and that give the farmer proprietary interest of their own coffee and also allow a lot of transparency within coffee trading. Along the way, there might be the commodities exchange coming, but one of the arguments we've made is that because coffee was part of Sagana 1, which was 2016, this is now Sagana 2. I think it is time that we see real resolution of the issues that affect coffee, and then the coffee reforms can be used as a standard measure for tea and for dairy and for poultry and for rice and for all of our other crops. A lot of work has been done on coffee reforms, and now that there is 3 billion on the table, I think it's very important to find modalities and regulations that allow that money to go to farmers using criteria, kilograms of production or the number of coffee trees that a farmer has. But this money, in our view, should not be used to pay debts. A lot of money has gone into debt until there is an audit of the cooperative societies and the debts that they owe. These 3 billion, if you put it into debts again, you're going to have a problem because a lot of money has already gone into debt. And remember, the tea farmers equally have a lot of debts. So this 3 billion goes to assist coffee farmers in terms of production, upgrading of factories, and then there is an audit of the societies. And we find other ways of helping with the tea farmers. If the debts now need to be paid, it actually ought to be the debts with the tea farmers.
Let me ask you this. So we've seen the progress, and I believe that document there is that coffee report. And this was a kind of bipartisan, if you like, a document that was agreed by a section of legislators from both houses. Why have you been able to build consensus on coffee issues in a way that we haven't seen a document and consensus, for instance, on tea or on milk or on rice and many other products that area residents have been complaining about?
I think that's the president's call from Sagana. In fact, that's the major resolution of Sagana, that we are going to have one voice in terms of the issues that affect the region. So coffee is just number one on the queue. But this particular initiative is called Tea and Coffee. It's actually called TECO, Tea and Coffee Initiative. There was discussion on COTEPA, Coffee and Tea Parliamentary Association. And so this coffee and then tea and then milk and then poultry and all of the other crops. So I'm hoping that the leaders agree to draft the necessary memorandums, draft the necessary regulations. But once we have a good roadmap, I think a lot of these things will be resolved. And I also want to say something about implementation. We say so many things. We are a country of speaking. We are a country of declarations. But we want to see implementation. So as soon as the meeting with the president happens, as he promised next week, as soon as Meru is on the agenda, let us see documents that allow implementation. The ministries are now involved, the particular CSs that are concerned. And let's see a rolling of sleeves and doing of the hard work. Get coffee, get tea, tusiseme tu, tusikue tu watu wa kusema tunaenda Sagana tunasema mambo mazuri and then those things are not done.
Happens.
So one of the other things we are looking forward to is an implementation team and how the president guides the implementation of the development issues that come up. It's not just coffee and tea. Remember, we have roads. We are particularly concerned about the roads that connect us to Suswa, so that then we can start to use the SGR for the purposes of taking the products from Mount Kenya region onto the railway and onto other parts of the country. The medium gauge railway, the one that is the line to Nanyuki, just 22 billion Kenya shillings required to revive it. I think that's also very important. We are also hoping that the other roads, the inter-county roads, the Nyeri Nyandarua, Muranga Nyandarua, Kiambu roads, a lot of that is also going to be done. And it requires prioritization, it requires unity of purpose, and it requires common language and common sharing of that region.
In total, does the area's leadership have an idea of how much money you're asking the government to pump into these projects in the next 3 years?
I think they do have, but also what is most important to remember, money follows ideas. Money follows projects. So when coffee started, the 3 billion wasn't on the table. With coffee reforms going on and with the coffee sector committee, now we have the 3 billion on the table. So when you start another crop like tea and you, for example, audit the debts, it is possible then to go to the budgetary process and request for an allocation. The medium gauge railway, that has already been costed at 22 billion Kenya shillings. So it is possible now with the new resolve. And you know, Kimani Ichung'wah remains the chair of the budget committee. So some of the members are holding very critical positions. Sabina Wanjiro Shege on the health committee, again, a lot of the level 5 hospital issues. So they can now use their positions like what Senator Ndwiga did. Senator Ndwiga is the chairman of Agriculture Committee in the Senate. So we want to see that resolved. And we're not just asking them to work for Mount Kenya. Remember, they will work for Mount Kenya and they will work for Kenya as well. So, but we're asking that the rightful share for Mount Kenya development is done. So that in Mount Kenya, we don't just see Kieleweki and Tangatanga. We want to see a lot more development for at least the next 2 years until 2022 when the election year comes.
All right. Honorable Pricilla Nyokabi.
Thank you. And I'm hoping that
Thank you very much.
Message about people being able to talk to each other is really something people are going to take to heart. I'm hoping that we in Nyeri, in particular, are going to agree to work together. Remember, elected leaders are not just the only leaders we have. And that's why you saw in Sagana, it was leaders of all shades, of all opinions. And just for the record, I personally had 107,000 votes in the last election as an independent candidate. I didn't have party backing. So even when I speak as a leader of our country. I serve in an important commission. And the ideas that we need are ideas from everyone, including the professionals and the other sectors. And Mount Kenya must show the way. Just compare it with Lazio region in Italy, with California and other places where these sort of initiatives have been done. I'm very optimistic that we will move well after Sagana too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very